Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Hi. Oh, should we get started with the donning of the fez? All right then. Greetings, fellow citizens. This is Citizen Kong, and welcome to another Fez Night. Tonight's Fez Night shall be called "What a Piece of Work is a Fez." I don't know if I'll be able to fit all that in, huh? Well, anyway, hope you all had a, it's been 2 weeks since the last Fez Night? Hope you all had a good 2 weeks. Cheers. Oh, what's happened since then? Oh, let's see. I forget to stir this. Yeah. Yeah, what happened? There was a Super Bowl. Yeah, that's why I skipped last Fez Night. It was for the Super Bowl. Tomorrow's St. Valentine's Day. Cheers to you that have somebody special for that day. Oh, excuse me. Itchy nose. Well, anyway, this might turn out to be a short Fez, but every time I say that, sometimes it goes really long. All right, then. So here we are. Another Fez Night. What a piece of work is a Fez. First of all, I want to thank Fez.m4v, who did a, rot calls, where he took one of my Fez Nights and re-edited it and did it like a phone call sort of thing. And I really appreciate being featured by Fez.m4v. Very, very talented person from Aussie land. And yeah, that was very nice of you. And everybody left nice comments, except for one person. Pops. Yes, I have enemies here on YouTube. But I can count them on one hand, easy, and I've got many friends. And thing with Pops is he crossed the line with me, and I mean he really crossed the line. I try to be an easygoing person. There's a lot of people that I used to fight with that have made amends, and we get along great. But nobody's perfect, and. Pops came and left a comment there. Oh, I could be sarcastic and say, oh, it was such a nice comment. I mean, he was perfectly polite to Fez.m4v, but he had to take some shot at me. The usual same shot that he takes over and over and over again, which would say something about the person taking the shot. Yeah, there's some repressed stuff going on there. I mean, you're like a broken record. It's the same joke over and over again. I mean, is that the only thing on your mind? So I'd have to say, what a petty, vindictive, pathetic, I don't even want to use the word, thing you are. I mean, this was a video, it was neutral ground. And you had to bring your jealousy and your you have absolutely no class. None whatsoever. And Lisa, you let him drag you down to his level. I mean, once again, it's the same nonsense. I really think you'd be much better off if you cut him loose. Really. You know. He makes you come off looking just as petty and vindictive as him. Oh, and I know you're trying to defend him because how many people come to the defense of Pops? Not very many. Speaking of which, one of your few friends that come to your aid in this stuff. Look, I'm proud of my circle. I'm not embarrassed about anyone, but you should be embarrassed about the people that help you out. There was speaking of which, I'm sorry to start out right away with this, okay? All right. First part of Fez Night, we talk about drama and stuff on the tubes. Okay? Sorry. To the other people, fast forward through this part. Yeah, the other YouTube news in my corner of the pond here is Nebish Knows got his channel shut down. I think we might have talked about this before. And Nebish Knows opened without affection, I call him Nebby. Nebby got his other channel shut down just like day before yesterday. And it was so nice, things being quiet without him coming by spamming my page with his inane babbling. He just types nonsense. All this stuff about Renetto. He thinks Renetto is everywhere. He thinks Renetto, who's like a big shot YouTube partner, actually pays attention to him. That actually bothers to create sock accounts to come by and harass him. Man, the kid, the man, whatever he is, she or whatever, is delusional. And so he popped up with a new channel. And I thought, man, I should just block him now just to keep things quiet. But I do really, really try not to block people. I do. I will lose patience with somebody. If they take advantage of my hospitality on my channel too much, I'll block them. Oh, and speaking of my channel, it's been really... There's been some weird stuff going on. Now, Crackhead Jesus, you're a trip. And thank you for your support. And, yeah, I do, poking fun at religion, whether it's any religion, is kind of, for me, personally, there's sort of a fine line. And I know my atheist friends were like, it doesn't matter. Hey, I'm sorry, but I feel that way, okay? A lot of it has to do with the way I was raised, and it's kind of hard to undo that. What hits you at the gut, So, but anyway, you really, you crack me up. You are very amusing. And who is this guy? I Married My Sister. You know what I Married My Sister did? He went and attacked somebody that I didn't even know who this person was. And said it was me. Pretended to be me. So this person came back with a sock account and started viciously attacking one of my videos and leaving channel comments. And... and then he was sending me PMs, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's not me. Finally, he calmed down, and, he apologized. We're all good now. Yeah, it's cool, man. I understand. But one thing you'll notice about me, and the way I handle this guy, I rarely, very rarely get nasty back. Andy, I have. She really, really wound me up because she starts by insulting me, and then she falls back on like, oh, look how you treat women. Hey, you know what? You were saying plenty of nasty things about me, okay? And I don't even talk to you. I don't want anything to do with you. And you come along, I'll leave a comment somewhere on a video, and you come along and you stick your nose in it, crying for attention. Yeah, speaking of which, the circle of the misfits. Okay, I'm a misfit, all right? But these people are another kind of misfits. Oh, Nebish Knows. Nebby. Yeah. Anyway. So, what else? Speaking of Valentine's Day, I wanted to say this. Wacky John, of John's Wacky World, made a video where he recites a poem. And John, I understand your bitterness, but I wouldn't exactly say I'm in the same place. I don't know, maybe because I'm older? Or maybe I don't think like you? But in the poem he says something about spending $1. John, that's your problem. You have to spend more than $1 on Valentine's Day. And then in the comments section, L. Brookman said, oh, what you need to do is find a loose woman. And then John replies with, loose women are trouble. John, hello? All women are trouble. It's just all a different kind of trouble. And I like that kind of trouble. What can I say? That's why I sort of have an attraction to redheads, the most notorious of females. Ask Gail Brookman. But I like that kind of trouble. And like I said, it's all different kinds. Women will make your life complicated. One thing about loose women is that they won't make your life as complicated as the type of woman you want to marry. I don't see it, okay? Any of you remember that show, Moonlighting? Was it Sybil Shepherd and what's his name? Before he became an idiot. I used to like him back then. I don't really like him now. Oh, the guy who married Demi Moore, come on. Started Die Hard. Why can't I think of his name right now? Huh, just hitting a blank. So anyway, Moonlighting, and the male character, it'll come to me later probably, said, women, you can't live without him, and you can't leave him on the curb when you're through with him. And I've always loved that line. That reminded me of years and years ago, of my experience. Oh, during my druggy days, I would meet females based on whose house I went to score, or who I partied with. And I met this girl through those circles, and I knew. I mean, she totally came on to me gangbusters the first time we went out. We went out as a group. We went to Mexico. It was like two couples. And, man, she came on to me gangbusters. And I ended up being with her that very night. And, but I knew this about her, okay? And I knew that you'd consider a loose woman. But, you know, she had a good heart, though. She was very, very good with my mother. My mother liked her, you know, really did. My mother never liked any of my girlfriends, or never showed any particular affection for them. But this particular gal, I'll call her Colleen, Irish-American extraction, could cook, and my dad was suffering from Parkinson's disease, and Colleen would have made a great nurse. I mean, she didn't get nauseous or you know, ooh, I won't do that, about any of that stuff, helping my dad, helping my mother. And so I'd say she was really good that way. Thing is, I couldn't trust her at all. She came to stay with me, and guys would call. You know, I'd pick up the phone, and they would ask for her. I'm like, what's going on? She dropped out of school. I was trying to encourage her to go back to school. Basically, I was taking care of her, and you know, at the time, it seemed like a good exchange. And I can remember coming home from work and being with her that night. On one particular occasion, there were bug bites all over her body. You know, you know, I mean, she wasn't covered in them, but there were bug bites. You know, in certain places. And it's not like she had the crabs or anything. No, it was like she had been rolling in the grass. And I said, "What's up? What's up with all these bug bites?" She said, "Oh no, I was helping my friend work on his car." I totally don't believe that. Never did. Anyway, but John, it was worth it. I have absolutely no regrets. Absolutely none. So that's my little woman story. Riley, I have to say, see, I'm checking my notes here, okay? Forgive me, I took notes. Riley, yeah, you got buzz, you got a buzz on, and you made a fairly angry video. You knocked a lot of people. Some of the people I was surprised that you were knocking. And I had to say something to you in the comments because I was taken aback. I thought you and I were getting along. Now, I admit, in the beginning, your style used to bother me, you know. The gold chain and the tracksuit, you know, it's like the Goomba thing, you know. I mean, I'm West Coast. But I really grew to like you. Oh, the other thing that used to bother me when you used to fake being dead or sick or whatever. And I genuinely feel bad. And then you come back, oh, just kidding. You know, so, hey, I'm gullible that way, all right? But then you come up with this thing where, look, people know me in the comment section that I am kind of a stickler for grammar and spelling. Well, especially Nebish. I mean, the guy, you know, the joke is he doesn't type. He has a chicken come and peck his keyboard. I think Monk came up with that. And so, okay, all right. I mean, I used to when I was a teenager, I'd fancied myself fancied being a writer. I actually had aspirations. I did pretty good in English, wrote short stories that people seemed to like. And back then, I sort of had aspirations of being a writer. What can I say? But Riley, have I ever criticized you in particular? You? And then you're saying that I was bagging on you because you're a roofer? Riley, I was a welder, and I worked for somebody else. And why would I knock somebody in the trades? You turned your trade into your own business. Okay? I mean, I wouldn't take that away from you. I have a lot of respect for that. And whoever was telling you these things, or whoever you've been talking to, I mean, I'd really like to know. I have my suspicions. But I don't understand it. And maybe you're going to come back with a gotcha. Okay, all right. But some people might have seen what you said and think it's true. You know, Pop says that about me all the time, that I'm a backstabber, a weasel, and an ankle biter. But look at Pops. Just look how he behaves. Go to any fight we're having and read his comments. It's the same long-winded FOMA every time. Lisa, you should be embarrassed. You really should. Let's see. Kind of going down my list. Oh, I wanted to say I'm featuring the video for a limited time only. Stan and Monk, you guys outdid yourselves. They did a video, a long feature, almost 30 minutes long. Shirley's, or Shirl's, Big Shirl's Stolen Purse. And of course the Kong puppet makes an appearance, along with Annelle Brookman. A wonderful cast. And Little Bonnie. Little Bonnie's there. Little Bonnie, one of my favorite characters. What an evil little girl. Oh, of course I love Uncle Balls, but Uncle Balls used to be a lot more cool to me. What's going on with you? Oh, and Buster was there? Hey, you know what? I saw the real Buster the other day. He looked good. He looked good. Of course, like a lot of times when you run into people you haven't seen in a long time, he pretended not to know me. And yeah, the guys there's two guys that live in the neighborhood. There's a guy named Manuel and a guy called Nick. Nick is I said it wrong before and he corrected me. A lot of Americans say Caledonian. I think it's Chaldean, which is basically a Christian. The Christians in Iraq. Excuse me. And every time not every time. I put him on the phone with Monk. It was really funny. I was walking with my cell phone in the liquor store, and Nick's always like, not always I said, but a lot of times he'll say, "Where's Buster? We're going to have a barbecue. Where's Buster?" And then Manuel's like the same way. "We're going to have a barbecue." Well, you wouldn't say it that way. The other day, Nick had me really going really good. Hey, like I said, I'm gullible. He said, Manuel, he was deported. I said, what? Manuel's lived here for years. I thought he had a green card. No, he's in Tijuana. I had to send him $100. I'm like, I kept going, you're kidding me. Because he was laughing so much. And they're friends, okay? And he's like, and then he goes, go ask his wife. Go ask his wife. I don't know the wife very well, so I wouldn't go over there and talk to her. And then he says, no, listen. And he shouted, Manuel. And then you hear Manuel shout back, hey! Oh, some of the amusing things that happen in my neighborhood. Yeah, okay. Have I talked enough about stuff on YouTube? I think so. What did I forget? Oh, hello to Eileen. Eileen has been such a good friend to me, and is we talk on the phone, and she's gotten me through some pretty bad spots there. So I want to say thanks to Eileen. You know, just it's nice having somebody to talk to. You know, sometimes. So. Yeah, let's get a little more serious and look at the newspaper. All right. Hey, what's going on with Egypt? What's going on with that, huh? You know, I wouldn't consider myself an expert on this. I do know that the Muslim Brotherhood goes really way back, I think to the 40s or 30s. And the Muslim Brotherhood was like the first Islamic political organization, do I want to say? That the... Prior to that, actually, what the British established, there was a pretty good separation of church and state in the Middle East, in the countries that they created, Iran, Iraq. You know, I mean, there used to be no borders there, really. They were tribes that moved around. And but the Muslim Brotherhoods were the first one that said the idea of an Islamic state. So right there, that's a bad thing. But you got to give them credit for embracing their culture and trying to throw off what the British Empire had imposed on them. And there were offshoots. And if you go like the most recent, there's sort of an evolution, a branching out of the Muslim Brotherhood. And kind of near at the end, one of the branches is Osama bin Laden. I mean, you know, his group, was it Al-Qaeda? I can't forget, I get confused with those, but ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. But now, the Muslim Brotherhood is so old that there's an air of legitimacy to them. And they're actually involved in some of the politics here, which really scares some right-wingers in this country. I think when the people rise up and throw off oppression, how can that be a bad thing? I mean, the Tea Party people are always talking about that. But what scares us in the West is what's going to take its place. I mean, we were happy with the Shah in Iran because he was basically our puppet, put in place by our CIA. But I don't know. I'd have to say this is a good thing. But change, boy. I know Obama ran on the whole thing change. Change can be good, but it can also be really bad. What I hate, I don't really like the expression, change is a good thing. Usually, when somebody's talking to you and go, change is a good thing, get ready. You're going to take it where it really hurts. But of course, me, you know, being an Obama supporter, his change is good, but of course there's going to be a lot of pain. Yeah, now, Brooklyn, I know you'll leave a comment. Yes, indeed. So, any of you see that video on YouTube of they were videotaping, you know, the protest? I was almost going to say riot, but there's all these people on a bridge protesting. Hey, anybody notice my shirt? Anybody? I don't know if it came out clear enough, but anybody know anything about that? Type it in the comments. A little bit of movie trivia. Yeah, that video on YouTube. I first heard about it on Coast to Coast, and they were saying something about, oh yeah, did you see that video? And I think it was CNN. You know, you see in the crowd one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I was like, what? Really? And the host is like going, oh yeah, it's eerie. So I found it on YouTube, and at first glance, it is kind of trippy. You know, there's this crowd. I think it's on a bridge or a wide street or something, and this green apparition moves through the crowd and then seems to like float up and then disappear. And And in a way, it really does like a really blurry image of a man on a horse. And you can almost imagine like a knight, you know, kind of. I mean, if you really haven't imagined it, if you're one of those people that can see things in clouds, you know, I mean, it looked a lot more real than some of those. Like locally, here in San Diego, we have a really large Hispanic community, you know, and Hispanics tend to be Catholic. And so the more than once in San Diego, you'll have one of these like, oh, there's the Virgin Mary on some billboard or something, you know, and there's whites there, but you know, the majority of Catholics here are Hispanic, and you know, the Catholics are like lining up. You go, whoa! You rarely see this with Protestants, at least from my experience. It's usually the Catholics with the, you know, the statue of Mother Mary, you know, tears welling, or tears, you know, coming down her face, or you know, you hear the stigmata thing, you know. Isn't that mostly in Catholicism, you know? So anyway, but I'm looking at this video, and then it becomes very apparent right away, because there's this light source off on the side. And then as the camera pans, the camera is panning, the image moves along as it's panning. You know, and I used to dabble in photography a lot. I know lens flare when I see it. It's unusual lens flare. Maybe there was a droplet of water on the lens or something like that. Or it could have just been, it was lens flare. Lens flare usually comes in colors because of the coating on the lens, you know, and color correcting coatings. So, another bit of trivia. Prior to color film, there was no need for color correcting coatings, okay? It's when they came out with, ever look through a cheap telescope where there's this sort of rainbow effect coming off of you know, images that you're looking at that are really bright? Yeah, that's because there's no coating on the lenses, no color correction. All right, let's look through the paper here a little bit more. I'm sure some of you just watched the first half, and then some of you only watched the second half. Let's see, how long has this been going on? Yeah, I better wind it up real quick. I wanted to say a historian's come out with a new book about Franklin Delano Roosevelt. It's a scathing critique of FDR. Scathing. And it says, like, a historian's book livens up the Tea Party-driven debate over America's past. And I just scanned this, but one thing caught my eye, and I know there's a lot of people that hate FDR, you know. But here, I got a kick out of this. His name is historian Burton Folsom Jr. Excuse me again. Folsom, who grew up in Nebraska, remembers his dad, a savings and loan executive, griping about high taxes and Roosevelt's voracious ambition. FDR was dead, but his legacy, deficit spending, an activist federal government, an expensive society's social safety net, lived on. So apparently, yeah, his dad was already griping about it after FDR was dead. Anyway, what caught my eye was his dad was a savings and loan executive. I'm sorry, but aren't these the people that caused all these problems recently? And prior to the Depression, besides Wall Street, but those guys are all in cahoots with Wall Street, right? Right? Some of you say, oh, if it wasn't for savings and loan executives, you wouldn't have shoes on your feet. Well, don't the people that make shoes have something to do with that? I don't know. Any of you ever watched Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? I mean, I read the series of books, actually. I did read them. And in there was this spaceship from this planet. And it was filled. What happened, this planet decided to get rid of everybody that was useless, in their opinion. Douglas Adams' opinion. And I have to agree with him. And it was filled with, like, middlemen and hairdressers and things that we could get along without. People I know it's sounding awful, but he was just looking at some of these lines of work, you know, life insurance salesman. Things that were created we really didn't need before until we were convinced that we have a need. You know, somebody should be able to. I don't know. I guess he just found these people annoying. The only two things I remember, we don't have them in this country, and of course, phone booths are disappearing, public telephones because of cell phones. But when Douglas Adams wrote his books, apparently in Great Britain or England, there was their job. These people would go around and disinfect telephones, public telephones, and he saw that as sort of a useless thing, like these people. And then the other one was hairdressers. Now I don't remember who else was on the list, but you could probably imagine. And so the people on the planet decided they were going to put them, and they weren't forced or anything. They enticed them somehow. Hey, vacation or something like that. And they got them all aboard this giant spaceship and launched them into space. And when Douglas Adams, the character, the protagonist, I can't remember his name, Arthur Dent, maybe? I can't remember his name. When they encounter them, everybody's happy. You know, they're not hating life or anything. They're too dumb to really know what happened. You know. But this is interesting. Photographer wins back rights to Monroe photos. His name is Joseph Jasger, and he was awarded his collection posthumously after a 6-year legal battle. Posthumously, he's dead now. Oh boy! In the afterlife, he's going, "What a thrill, huh? I finally won." I guess it might, if he has any survivors, I guess they might benefit from it. This political cartoon caught my eye. It's some journalists, and they're looking off. They're pointing their camera somewhere. See it? I'll hold it steady enough. Okay, get the picture? So he says, the journalist is asking these people, somebody off camera or outside the panel, "Why do you threaten us, smash our equipment, put us in jail, torture us, and sometimes even kill us?" The answer is, "You make us look bad." Oh, isn't world unrest funny? Oh. Let's see. Okay, this last story. Where are we going here? Yeah. The anti-vaccine scare goes epidemic. This is a book called The Panic Virus. And it's written by Seth Moonkin, Moonkin. I suppose the N is silent. This is what it says at the top, first paragraph. Don't you just love it? I just read like one paragraph and go, yeah, I know all about it. If you're curious, I encourage you to read more. Basically, I'm going over the headlines. Headlines and commentary. All right, and it says The Panic Virus. This is the name of the book, all right? The first paragraph says, readers, take notice. Readers, take note. If you're already convinced that vaccines cause autism, that vaccine-preventable infectious diseases no longer threaten children's lives, here and abroad, and that certain modern anti-vaccine gurus are motivated by nothing but tender concern for your family's health, Seth Moonkin's The Panic Virus is not the book for you. Which made me think, yes, there's always going to be a group of people that everything with them, excuse me, I'll take a sip here. They don't care about science. They don't care. It's the attitude. I run into this before. What I learned about life, I never got out of a book. You know, books are useless. I've got common sense. I have life experience. Granted, there's some people that don't enjoy reading. But for anything that involves something more complicated, even repairing your car, most mechanics have to consult a manual. You can't keep everything inside your head. You can't remember precisely like what part number you need to order. How can you say books are useless? We can't hold everything in our head. Now we have computers to take that place, but that's what books did. Prior to that, we had to keep everything in our head and pass that on verbally, like stories handed down. And that was a big thing. The wise man in the village or tribe was the one who had all these things committed to memory that he taught other people who had committed to memory and handed down. It's when we developed the ability to write and keep records when knowledge really started to expand. So I feel, here we go. I'm arguing the importance of the written word. And but these same people, it's like, oh yeah, all these egg-headed scientists, they don't know anything, These scholars in the universities, no, they're just a bunch of people, just trying to control our lives, They're a bunch of elitists, I even saw in a comment that they should make on the Mike Savage video. This guy kind of said like they should pass a law against colleges. Prevent people from going to get a higher education. Because once they get the higher education, they become indoctrinated into some type of thinking this person doesn't agree with. Very, what's such ignorance? It's actually they call it anti-intellectualism, but it's probably, I would call it a pro-stupidity or a pro-ignorance stance. I'm all about, I'm all about being ignorant. That's the best way to be. So getting back to this vaccine thing, there's always going to be a group of people that don't trust the scientists, or they only pick the things that agree with how they feel. These people are ruled by emotion. They don't use their intellect to weigh and balance and listen to both sides. And sometimes a consensus is wrong, of course. But that's the thing about science. It's constantly changing. You get new information, and then you change your mind when the new evidence comes up. Stephen Colbert had a great word for this. It's called truthiness. It has the air of truthiness. Everything I know about how to make a judgment comes from my gut. So that's these people. Look, I say that the thing with vaccines, sure, vaccines can make people sick. It can kill some people. And the FDA is a mess. The FDA started out with good intentions. The idea was that before we had the FDA, we didn't have anything. It was basically a free market thing. They would sell some patent medicine. If enough people died, then the word would get around, and then the company would have to change their product or go out of business. I mean, it was like snake oil, before that. They could put anything in there. Mercury to cure syphilis. There was no medical, background check or anything like that. Thanks to Teddy Roosevelt, progressive idea, the FDA came about. But now it's a mess. There's so many ways that it's corrupt now, and funding has been cut. They don't have enough people to go out and do research. Where they do get money, it's like big pharma is giving them money. It's like the fox guarding the hen house. It's a big problem. But what we need is the vaccines to be monitored. And if there's heavy metals in the vaccine, well, we need to get them out and come up with there's the reason why they supposedly put the mercury in there is for a preservative. Well, there's got to be a way around that. But think where we would be without vaccines. Think where we were before them. Somebody was claiming on Coast to Coast again that this is an anti-vaccine person that said, if Jonas Salk hadn't discovered the polio vaccine, the polio rate was already going down naturally by itself. The vaccine wasn't really needed. That it was a big, media hyped problem. All the newsreel footage of the children in iron lungs and using crutches and leg braces. I don't know. I didn't go back and research that. I just grew up thinking that Louis Pasteur and Jonas Salk and Fleming, who came up with Scotsman, by the way, the British Isles, that place, so many wonderful things came out of there. For such a small place. Yeah, penicillin. If I remember correctly, Fleming was a... correct me if I'm wrong. I remember his name was Fleming, and he was a Scotsman. Steam engine, among other things. Jet engine. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm slipping into my Anglophile mode. I remember growing up thinking what it was like before that. So I grew up thinking these were good things. I can remember getting a vaccination, flu vaccine. I was sicker than a dog the next day. I've gotten shots in my butt when I was a kid that made it just swell up. I knew a young woman that I happened to meet on the train, and we corresponded for a while. She was on her way to joining the Navy. She was from New Mexico, and she was coming to somewhere. Was it San Diego? She was on her way somewhere to join the Navy, I think it was. And they let her go right away because the vaccinations put her in the hospital. Something that turned up in the obituary that didn't make major headlines, but I thought was important. A scientist, and I might get this first name wrong, he's Danish scientist, Willy Dansgaard. And it's spelled, I'm saying Willy because it's spelled capital W-I-L-L-I. And he is the Danish scientist that was basically the front man, the name for the ice core studies. And when I'm talking, they call them climate change deniers. Well, we might have to come up with a new name for them. Science deniers, or man-influenced climate change deniers. That's a little bit long. A lot of these people that I talk to, I haven't had it recently, but they cite the ice core studies. It was the ice core studies. They reference that. And the reason why they reference that is to let us know that climate change is a natural occurrence, that the planet Earth has had different climates in the past. Yeah, well, if you paid attention in elementary school in the basic science class, yeah, we know the Earth was covered with all these plants. It was a lot warmer, and there were dinosaurs. Just to be simple. And then the Ice Age came, and we had the woolly mammoth and the saber-toothed tiger, and all the rest. So yes, we acknowledge that. That should be that's pretty much obvious. So what the real argument comes down to is does man influence this? Okay, so the ice core studies. And this study, he was able to go back, and basically they drill down into the Greenland ice cap. And it's sort of like layers, like rings on a tree. They can go back, and in the ice is trapped the gases that was in the atmosphere at that time. And supposedly, there might be that doubt out there, but the consensus is it can go back 150,000 years. And the consensus is pretty strong. Obviously the opposition is citing the ice core study, so that there must be accepting that fact or that premise. But the part they leave out, and this is what Dansgaard found important for us to need to know, is that, well, first of all, he saw a relationship between the atmosphere, which he found a higher density of, or a higher ratio compared to the other gases, of CO2 and methane. And when the planet was a lot warmer, guess what? There was a lot more CO2 and methane in the atmosphere. And these people that I get into arguments, they go, oh, CO2, it's a life-giving gas. CO2 is so important to life. Yes, plants need it, but humans and animals and mammals, and I think even fish, if you put them on a diet of CO2, they'll die. Try it. Buy a tank of CO2, get a gas mask, and inhale deeply for a few hours and see how you feel. So there was a relationship to. The other thing he found is that the rate of climate change was fairly consistent. It happened and happened consistently. But what he found was that during the Industrial Revolution, the beginning when mankind really did, we could thank Great Britain for really bringing us the Industrial Revolution. There were stories in London, the smog was so bad, people died. There was no check into the pollution, what they were pumping into the atmosphere, and there was some sort of inversion layer, And people died because so much bad air, so much smoke was trapped. Okay, I'm off on another tangent, but what he saw was the rate of climate change escalating, changing at a faster rate. So once again, the argument, though, is these people say, oh, there's no way that man can influence his environment. Not on a global scale. Okay, well, they don't usually say not on the global scale. A lot of times they just say, no, man can't influence their environment. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't have the ring of truthiness. And what I say is that one example, simple example everybody can understand, on how man can change the weather. And that's besides cloud seeding and all these other things. You know, if we launched enough nuclear bombs, we could have a nuclear winter. That's one way of influencing the weather, isn't it? But the simple thing of building cities of glass and concrete and tarmac and, asphalt roads is you have this giant area of earth covered in concrete and asphalt. And what happens is you have the heat island effect. Is those areas heat up under the sun. And you actually have like this rising hot air coming off the city. So you have like this little microenvironment that's different than outside the city. That's just one small idea. And as the population grows, I mean, a lot of people agree that some parts of the sea are overfished. They have to keep going farther and farther out to find their fish. That's changing the environment. Pollution, that's man-made. Smog is a man-made weather condition. Fog mixed with smoke. I don't know. To me, it's very simple. All right. Enough of my proselytizing. Yeah, I said I didn't have anything to talk about, and I went on really long. All right, everybody. Have a great week. Thanks for watching. What a piece of work is a Fez. Cheers. I always forget how to turn this thing off. Should I do this over again? No, I'll just cut it off.